Hi there, Victoria. Nice to see that you're back with more essays. So let's take a look at what you wrote. This is about the advantages and disadvantages of spending a lot of money on weddings. So let's see how you dealt with this particular topic. Experts throughout both the developing and the developed world have debated whether spending a huge amount of money on weddings has more advantages, with a plural here, or drawbacks. Some believe that on a great not a great celebrity, but a great celebration, an immense amount of money should be spent. However, personally, I strongly disagree. This essay will discuss both sides using examples from the UK government and India to demonstrate points and prove arguments. Okay, so far so good. No problems there, except for those two little word error things. Okay, there is ample evidence that people should not spend a great amount of money on weddings. The central reason behind this is twofold. Firstly, the money which, not what, the money which people spend on weddings could be used elsewhere or be saved for future expenses. Secondly, if we think about it more, a wedding is just a party with our acquaintances. For example, recent empirical research, singular, by the UK government demonstrated that 70% more... the grammar here is off, Victoria. Let's look at it again. Demonstrated that people are 70% more likely to get divorced if they spend a lot of money on their weddings, as opposed to the case when they did not spend that amount of money, they stayed married. All right, that's a little awkward. As opposed to the case when they did not spend that amount of money. Full stop. That makes a little more sense. Therefore, it is conclusively clear that people should think twice over how much money they spend on their weddings. Okay. Yes. All right. It's fine. Yeah, you said that it's a bad idea, that the disadvantage is that you won't have money spent on other things, and that people get divorced when they spend a lot of money. Fine. So, although there is a case for spending, okay, grammatically, all right, now I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to use the template, and you're trying to use this sort of connector to shift gears and talk now about the positive side of this. But unfortunately, the way you've done it is unsuccessful. So what you really want to say something here is something like, although there is a case for the negatives associated with spending a lot of money on weddings, occasionally great expenses for a wedding may be necessary. Okay, so you need to have this kind of construction here. So although there is a case for this, contrast, there's this. Okay, so you need to have this sort of two clauses here, two parts of a sentence, where the first side talks about essentially what you've just said, and then the second part shifts gears and talks about what you're about to discuss in the essay. So this is largely because there are some countries where a huge wedding is a tradition. For instance, an extensive study from India showed that a family who has a female child, a study from India has shown that in a family with a female child, the parents start to save money for her wedding from the day she is born. Consequently, it is possible to state beyond doubt that there are some countries, especially in the East, where weddings, or where a wedding has such a traditional meaning to people that they need to spend a larger amount of money on it. Okay? All right, let's look at your conclusion, then we'll talk about the way you developed this essay. From the arguments and examples given, I firmly believe that except when living in a more wedding traditional orientated country, people should not spend a lot of money on a wedding. In modern Western society, the majority of people think about their wedding as a party. Therefore, the cons of spending greater money on it are greater than the pros. Okay. Your conclusion is fine. Let me tell you what my concerns are, though, about your body paragraphs. Were there a couple of little grammatical mistakes here and there? Yeah, there were. My concern is elsewhere, though. Specifically, my concern is with the way you developed it. So let's talk about primarily this paragraph, which was what I thought was weaker. First of all, remember that the essay asks you to talk about advantages, plural, and disadvantages, plural. Here you didn't really talk about advantages. Okay, first of all, you basically talked about reasons for spending money. So I felt like you were answering a different question here. I felt like you were answering why do people spend a lot of money on weddings, and to what extent do you agree with this? That's kind of what I felt like you were talking about here. You're not supposed to talk about the whys. You're not supposed to talk about the reasons. Instead, what you're supposed to talk about is the benefits. So what good thing comes out of an expensive wedding? All right, and this is really important because you have to talk about what is gained from an expensive wedding. And I emphasize an expensive wedding because it's a gain that you would get only with spending a lot of money on a wedding, and not if you were to have a moderately priced or an inexpensive wedding. So how can you show us that this lavish spending on a wedding is beneficial? What potential benefits could it have? Instead, you really here just talked about why people spend a lot of money, and the one reason you said is that for some countries it's a tradition. All right, which is not a benefit. It would have been different if you had framed this a little differently. If you had said that, therefore, it is an advantage of spending a lot of money on a wedding because certain cultural traditions, especially in the East, are maintained. All right, as extensive spending on weddings is considered a cultural tradition. Now, if you had framed it like that, and that, you had said that in this age of globalization, it's nice to see that certain traditions are upheld and maintained in countries despite any sort of negatives associated with it. If you had framed it like that this is an advantage of maintaining cultures and traditions, then I would have said, okay, yeah, you've proved your point. However, I'm going to remind you once again that the essay has asked you for benefits, so plural, which means you have to come up with at least 2 benefits. Likewise, you have to come up with at least 2 disadvantages. You kind of did that here, but I would have preferred if you had again talked more about a disadvantage, like what bad thing comes out of spending a lot of money. You could have said instead that people do not have money for things that they might need down the line. Like, for example, they may want to purchase a home, or they may want to start a family and may not have the money necessary in order to raise their child or pay for that child's education. All right, so if you had talked about those things are disadvantages. So again, here I feel like you are not really hitting the question on the head, okay? But a nice job overall. You've definitely made a good effort here. So, but those are the things I want you to be concerned about. And it's really just a matter of really, really, truly analyzing the question and not and understanding what they're asking you, and not what you kind of think, well, oh, it's kind of related to this. No, you have to really focus because they are absolutely looking at this kind of thing. Okay? So let's move on. Let's look at your cover letter. Dear Sir or Madam, I am writing regarding the job I saw advertised last week. I would like to apply for this business analyst position at your company, as my dream job would be to work as a business analyst, and I have heard amazing information about your corporation. All right, it's a little informal, a little. This is my dream job. This is not the kind of thing you would want to say in order to make a really positive professional first impression. Amazing information also sounds really rather informal to me. So you have to sound a little, how can I say this? I don't want to say less enthusiastic, but you have to use language that is a little more academic sounding, a little more formal. So let's try it again. I would like to apply for this business analyst position at your company, as I have been long impressed by your company, and I feel that I would be an ideal fit for your corporation. Okay? That's a more formal way. So you sound a little less emotional and sentimental about it when you use this kind of language. I would be a huge asset to your company as I have brilliant programming skills. Okay, again, brilliant is really informal. We don't use this in this kind of writing. In multiple languages such as this, and this. Besides this, I am a good team worker and I have great problem-solving skills. Okay, besides this still is a little informal. So I would have preferred something like additionally. Okay? Furthermore, my passion has always been analyzing big data and producing different reports from it. I am an energetic person who adores analyzing numbers and thinking about possible improvements. Adores, again, it's just, you're not writing a friend, you're writing potentially your boss, so you have to use appropriate language here. I'm an energetic person who enjoys the challenge of analyzing numbers. Okay? A little less informal, less friend-like, okay? Again, a little more appropriate business language. I have several experiences that I have considerable experience, singular, as I have been working as a management information specialist for more than 5 years, and my daily job includes data analysis. Before this, I studied financial mathematics at a local university for 6 years. I would appreciate it if you could consider to hire me for this position. I do hope you're interested in my application. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Yours faithfully. Okay. It's fine. Again, this isn't really the best language to end your cover letter. My suggestion would be to maybe use something a little different. How about before this, I studied financial mathematics at a local university for 6 years. For all the above reasons, I believe I am well qualified to be given this position. I look forward to hearing from you soon, and that's fine. Okay? A little more appropriate language. So it's fine. You've certainly covered all the points. You showed passion. You showed enthusiasm. You showed energy. You talked about your past experience, all that stuff. So you covered it in terms of the task achievement. But again, I felt like the language was not really as formal as it should have been. So for me, that's probably the biggest problem here. And essentially what that does is that covers 2 points in the grading criteria. So it would cover task achievement, which is how appropriate your tone is, if it's formal enough or not. But it would also probably cover lexical resource. So it's that kind of mistake that would lower your score in 2 different categories. Yeah, I know it sounds kind of unfair, but unfortunately that's how it works. So that's one of the reasons why I keep mentioning it, and I keep giving you suggestions for how you could change around the language, all right? So go ahead and correct these essays. Let's see what you write for us the next time, and I'll be looking forward to it. So we're here, so we're waiting. Good luck.